everyone, my name's Kayla from the Adventures of Kayla and Silas, and today I'm going to talk to you about my top 10 tips for your first cruise. We actually just got back from the beach. We're now in Mexico, and so that's why my hair is all wet. We just went on this amazing cruise, and it was a ton of fun. We got to do a bunch of different things. We got to go to some really cool places, but it was our first cruise, so we also learned a lot about that type of travel. And we were lucky because we had some friends and family members with us who had already been on cruises before. So we had a little bit of help navigating the system, so to speak. So today I'm going to talk about the top 10 tips. And I have some more tips. I'm going to be posting more about that later this week. But for today, we're just going to focus on these 10. So tip number 1, here we go. Buy your extras in advance. So extras can be a bunch of different things, but cruise lines generally include your room, most activities, and your food. They'll charge you extra, generally speaking, for drinks, especially alcoholic drinks, things like internet packages, spa treatments, anything like that you know you want to do. You should try to book it in advance because they run specials up until like a week before your cruise. So as an example, on our cruise, if you wanted an all-inclusive drink package, anything you wanted, alcohol included, it was $40 a day per person. They were selling that exact same thing the first day on our cruise for $60 a day. So you can imagine buying it in advance. If you know you're going to drink and you want something like that, buying it in advance will save you a lot of money. We also recommend you do the math because for us, we did the math. It didn't make sense for us to buy a drink package because while it was cheaper to buy it in advance, we still never drink that much. And so it wouldn't have been worth it for us. So make sure you know yourself and kind of do some reflection before you just pull the trigger on something that actually won't save you any money in the long run. All right, tip number 2, print off your cruise documents in advance. So it's kind of a long story, but accidentally our cruise reservation was lost. And so I never got emails from the cruise line from when we booked our cruise all the way up until we were on the cruise. It was really weird. So I never got the email that said, hey, dummy, this is what you're supposed to do a couple days before the cruise is print out all this important paperwork. But luckily, someone from our group told me about it in advance. And so I went ahead and took care of that. But I do think this is an important tip. You definitely want to print that stuff off before you go because it will make your time at the port when you're trying to get on the ship so much easier. And that's also when you can print luggage tags. So, you print these in advance, you stick them on your bags, and then as soon as you get out of the taxi or as soon as you park your car, there are porters there who can take your big luggage and just whisk it away for you so you don't have to worry about hauling it anywhere. And if it has your luggage tag on it, then it automatically is going to go show up at your room a few hours later, which is super helpful. And, the boarding procedure is a little chaotic, so this is just one thing to make it that much easier. Tip number 3, drinks. So if you're not getting a drink package, most cruise lines actually allow you to bring some drinks with you. So usually you can bring 2 bottles of wine or you can bring a case of water. So since we didn't get a drink package, we actually saved a lot of money because I'm guessing a bottle of wine on board would have probably cost us like $30, but we aren't fancy wine drinkers. I just bought a $6 bottle of wine at the local grocery store, and then we ended up saving a lot of money being able to drink that wine on board. Tip number 4, don't forget stuff that you're probably going to need because everything on the ship is really expensive. So you can imagine what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about things like sunscreen, aloe vera, bug spray. The stuff that they stock in the general store on the ship, they stock it because people forget it. And then they charge you like 4 times as much as it probably is worth. So try to remember all those things and kind of plan ahead. Things like motion sickness medicine or even just ibuprofen. Those are things that you can foresee possibly needing to use. If you want to bring wine on board, make sure to bring a wine bottle opener, stuff like that. The other thing I was going to talk about in this section was almost everyone on a cruise ship is wearing a lanyard, and they sell them. They sell them by the buckets when you walk on the ship, and they sell relatively unattractive but very expensive lanyards. So go to Amazon before you leave, grab some cheap lanyards, ones that you're not gonna care if you lose or whatever, if they get gross and sweaty, because then there's a card you have to carry everywhere on the ship. You put that card right there in the lanyard, or you clip it to your lanyard, and then you have it with you everywhere you go. So if you want to buy a drink, if you're looking for your room key, if you're trying to find where your dinner reservation is, that's all on this card. It's super important. So if you have it on your lanyard, you can't lose it. So one more thing for your packing list. All right, tip number 5, a day bag for day 1. So I already mentioned you're going to drop all your luggage with the porters as soon as you get out of your car at the port. But those bags take time to get to your room. So in the meanwhile, you're going to want a smaller bag, a tote bag, a small backpack, something like that you can carry with you on board. In that bag, you're going to want anything that you're going to need for the next 3 hours. So if you want to go to the pool right away, if you want to go to the gym right away, if you are going to be out in the sun and need sunscreen right away, all those things should be in your day bag. In addition, don't forget to put in your day bag all of your valuables, jewelry, passports, wallets, things like that you wouldn't want to accidentally get lost or stolen. That should all go in your day bag as well. And finally, and I learned this the hard way, folks, if you're bringing your own wine aboard, it is supposed to go in your day bag because there's a special place where they check your wine. I did not follow those directions, and miraculously our wine still made it to our room, but I think it was a little bit of a fluke. You have to claim that you're bringing wine aboard. Oops, missed that direction. So definitely don't put that in your luggage. Put that in your day bag so that you can tell people that you're bringing wine aboard. All right. Tip number 6, protect your sea card with your life. So I kind of mentioned this already. Regardless of what cruise line you're sailing with, they're going to give you this little card. It's kind of like a driver's license. It's like a heavy plastic, and it has everything on it that you possibly need. You swipe it for your room key. You use it as a credit card on board. We had to use ours to check out towels at the pool. It's basically your passport when you go on shore, because you don't take your passport with you. You'll take your sea card. And I'm saying sea card. Every cruise line kind of calls it something different. The other things, though, it says right on there your room number. It tells you where to go for your emergency evacuation. It tells you where your dinner reservation is at. It tells you what drink package you have. It tells you all the things. So you definitely want to have it with you at all times. So protect it with your life. Buy a lanyard. We use carabiners and clipped them to our bag. But this thing needs to go with you everywhere. The exchange is you don't need to carry your passport. You don't need to carry your credit card. You don't need to carry a room key. It is your one-stop shop for getting around the ship. So make sure you have a plan for making sure you don't lose it. All right, number 7. There are more food and drinks than you might think. I don't know if we thought we were going to starve aboard or what, but there were so many options. And one of the things that was really cool was at the kind of more formal dinner seating, the menu actually changes each night, which was really cool. So we got lots of different options available. And, special tip here, you can often ask for more than one thing. So if you see 2 things on the menu and they're both just for that one night, for that one meal, you can actually ask to try the other thing too. They did that with us for all 3 dishes, for appetizer, entree, and dessert, which was really great and delicious. Another thing that we didn't know that's kind of related, we were kind of under the impression, because they have a non-alcoholic drink package, that it would be impossible to get things like water or juice or coffee for free on board, but that actually wasn't true. So in the cafeteria style dining, which is where we ate most days for breakfast and lunch, there was always drinks available, and you didn't have to swipe your card for those. And then also at dinner, we got water and tea and I think coffee with dessert. So there are maybe a little more options than they kind of let on when you're booking. And then above and beyond that, they have, oh my goodness, pizza places, sushi, cupcakes, ice cream. There's stuff everywhere. And some of it you have to pay for and some of it you don't. But there's definitely no one on board who is hungry in my mind. All right, tip number 8, lock up your passports. Talked about this a little bit, but because you were given this kind of special pass by your cruise line, you do not need to bring your passports on land with you, which is kind of mind-boggling to us. And so the cruise lines actually recommend that you lock them up in your room. There's a safe in your room. And you might also want to lock up other valuables, things like perhaps your wedding ring, something like that. You don't need it on land. You can just leave it locked up in your room with your passport. The other thing, just so you know, is that we can use that passport your C card, not the passport. The C card just works like a passport. So you use it to get off the ship, you use it to get back on the ship. And if you have any problems on land, that should be with you. They do recommend you bring a photo ID. So if you have a driver's license or something like that, you could bring that. But they strongly recommend you do not take your passport on land, which again was kind of mind-boggling. All right, tip number 9, money. We're almost to the end. If you follow anything else I've ever said on the Adventures of Kayla and Silas, I almost always recommend that you take out the local currency from an ATM wherever you're traveling because you're going to get the best exchange rate. I actually don't have that recommendation for cruising because while they are charging you a little bit more in US dollars than they are in the local currency, it's almost impossible to get the local currency. So in fact, I tried twice to find ATMs to get out pesos in Mexico while we were in port, and I couldn't find any. So they actually want you to pay in dollars. They're making a little bit of money off of that, but then you're not going out of your way to incur banking fees either. So I recommend that you just bring a lot of small bill US dollars with you, $5 bills, $1 bills. A lot of places might give you pesos back in change. So that's why it's better if you're just buying a $1 bracelet that you have a $1 bill. So you're not getting $19 back out of a $20 bill in pesos. And then bigger places, like if you're doing a big experience, if you're going ziplining or you want to go to a nicer restaurant or something like that, those places should take a Visa card. So you should be good to go there. But as a general rule, I would say just stick with USD, especially in the Caribbean. I'm not quite sure other destinations, but especially in the Caribbean, I would stick with US dollars as opposed to trying to take out the local currency. And if you're worried about tipping or anything like that, they'll gladly take your USD for tips as well. All right, tip number 10, and I have a lot more, but you'll have to see my written blog post because I'm running out of voice here. But you should book your excursions in advance. I wasn't quite sure what to expect as far as excursions went. We did one together as a group, and then we had a couple of days where we kind of did our own thing. But my number one tip here is to know what you're going to do, because the moment you get off that ship and you're walking around looking for a tour, you're going to be bombarded with salespeople. So I think the best thing you can do is to already know in advance your plan. Even if your plan is to get off the ship and go to a specific tour agency and then barter for the specific tour that you want to do, at least know that that's your plan, because otherwise I think you don't have the option to do research, to look at reviews and recommendations, and you're not going to know exactly what's included because, if you make a decision last minute, it just might not be what you expect, and that hardly ever ends well. But do look for things like, is lunch included? Bottled water? Is all the transportation included? Do you need to tip the driver? Stuff like that, because a lot of things can add up if you're not paying attention. And so looking at all those things beforehand and making a well-informed decision is really important. And your cruise line should have options for you, but you can also go to websites like Viator or Gray Line or TripAdvisor and look for local tours, because there are lots of companies that operate in all the port cities that do tours to the local hot spots. And so there's plenty of information online. And I highly recommend you have a plan going in so that you're not kind of caught off guard by by a pushy salesperson. That's it. Those are my 10 top tips. We had a lot of fun on our cruise. We learned a lot. I hope that these tips are helpful for you. And if you have any other questions, feel free to comment. I will do my absolute best to answer them or to point you in the right direction of something that resembles an answer. Again, I'm Kayla with the Adventures of Kayla and Silas, wishing you luck with your upcoming adventures.